Hey, is Brian Wright doing right by the Spurs?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope everybody's having a great hump day. It's Wednesday, halfway through the work week, and we'll get you through it right here on Locked On Spurs. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app. The list goes on and on. Seriously, just pick a platform. We are there. We always appreciate you making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So what are we talking about today? We're going to bring in our guest, Jack Thompson, formerly San Antonio Spurs star. We're going to be asking the question, is Brian Wright doing right by the Spurs? What I mean by that is a lot of the offseason moves he's already made and pretty much assembling the team for next season. Is he doing right in that aspect? And what about preserving the Spurs' future as well? We're going to get to that in more detail. And then talk about Blake Wesley. He's kind of been lost in the shuffle. You know, a lot of point guard talk, right? CP3, Stephon Castle. Yeah. Where's Blake Wesley fit in all this? We're going to be discussing that and more in just a few minutes. But as always, we kick you off with some Spurs news and notes. And first off, Juan Nunez, yes, the Spurs 2024 second round pick in the NBA draft, will not be playing for Team Spain once they go to the Olympics. He has been replaced by Alex Abrines. Basically, Juan Nunez will be on the practice squad camp up until they go to the Olympics. Reason being, Abrines, I believe, has a little bit more experience, and they brought him back from injury once that happened, and then they punched their ticket to go to the Olympics. They made room, and they let young Juan Nunez go. He'll have plenty of time to go to a lot of international competition for Spain, whether it be in 4 more years with the Olympics or all those qualifiers they have in between. So there's your quick Juan Nunez update. Other Spurs news. I had a chance to talk to the newest members of the Spurs, Harrison Barnes and CP3, yesterday at the Spurs practice facility for their introduction conference. Now, we're going to be discussing a lot more in detail what we learned from CP3, Chris Paul, and Harrison Barnes on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Spurs. But just quickly, Harrison Barnes told me that he understands the Spurs are in a rebuild. And I asked him, like, well, okay, well, looking from the outside in now that you're here, but, you know, looking from the outside in before you came here, what do you think about the Spurs and what do they need? And he just said they just need to work together. They need to share experiences. CP3 had a fun little back and forth with me. I had asked him, I go, hey, you know, a lot of Spurs fans are excited that you're here. What's your message to them? I mean, first of all, he said that Spurs fans have been kind of spoiled, you know, with so many years of dominance, you know, in the Tim Duncan era. But nevertheless, he came down to it and just said that, well, the Spurs fan base should, how can I say this? Be forgiving for him for how he may behave during games. What he meant by that is he's going to do whatever it takes to win. So if that means calling out players, maybe selling fouls, getting in rest phase, he's going to do whatever it takes for the Spurs to win. But again, we're going to be discussing that and more. I'll probably have a couple of write-ups on my back and forth with Barnes and CP3 on kens5.com/Spurs. Make sure to go there right now. Hey, and speaking of CP3, he put out a message for all Spurs fans before the press conference. He put it up on Spurs social media, basically saying that he's glad to be in San Antonio, that he's ready to get to work. He needs to work on his Go Spurs Go chant. He just said Go Spurs. I guess we can let him slide, right? He's a new guy. But you can go check that out over at Spurs.com and on Ken's 5 as well. We got it all covered there every single day. And finally, in your obscure Spur news, remember Joe Wieskamp? A couple of years ago, that shooter, you know, played a lot in Austin. Well, for those of y'all wondering, where is he now? He is now be playing overseas in Australia. He'll be playing the NBL. That's their version of the NBA. He signed on with a team with Melbourne. So he'll be suiting up for Melbourne soon. But for those of y'all who remember Joe Wieskamp, yeah, he's now playing. See, talk about, I guess, a blast from the past, because I know I forgot about him. And then he just popped up. And I was like, whoa, I guess he's playing in Melbourne now. But yeah, those are quick Spurs news and notes. When we get back, Jack Thompson will be joining us. We're going to be putting Brian Wright on the spotlight. He's been doing right by the Spurs. We'll find out in just a few seconds. But first, I want to talk to you about Game Time. You want to go to gametime.co right now. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of MLB, Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Plus, on the Game Time app, the prices actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. They got killer last minute deals, views from your seat, lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They not only got that low price guarantee, they got event cancellation protection, job loss protection, flash deals, zone deals. Seriously, any type of event in your area, you want to go to Game Time. Hey, speaking of those zone deals, you can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose your seats. Last minute deals, yeah, you can save up to 60% off by buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you need. Go to Game Time, they'll have a ticket for you. And the Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time or any ticket that you need, as a matter of fact. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
A Jedi uses the Force. To subscribe to Locked On Spurs, pass on what you have learned.
All right, look who's back, everybody. He is Jack Thompson. Follow him on X at Jack_Thompson33. Jack, we need the 3 goggles, man. You got to give us the 3 goggles. There you are. Look at that. He's always raining 3-point shots here at Locked On Spurs, giving his thoughts on the silver and black and so much more. He is formerly with San Antonio Sports Star, and again, you see his X handle. Go follow it right now. Jack, how you doing?
Doing just fine, man. Doing just fine.
That
How you
roster's
doing?
coming along, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I love it so far.
By the way, before we dive into this, is it cool now to wear New Balance? Is it
Oh
cool
yeah,
now?
New
Okay.
Balance is my favorite brand of shoe for sure.
I feel myself getting drawn to the 550s.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
New Balance has numerous beautiful silhouettes. I just got some for my birthday from my girlfriend, so yeah,
Oh,
I'm a huge New Balance guy.
all right. Well, happy birthday. I'm just wondering because, I'm wearing New Balance right now. And I don't know if that puts, I'm not a dad. I don't have kids, but I don't know if that's a dad move. So
Nah,
wearing New
it's not a
Balance.
dad move anymore. Not a dad move anymore.
All right. So why is Jack here? We're going to be looking at Brian Wright and pretty much put him in the spotlight. Is Wright doing right? Is he making the right moves ahead of the new season? Obviously, he's way too early in the offseason. Things can change. But as of now, are they the right moves? And then talk about Blake Wesley. Is his future now cloudy in San Antonio? We'll talk about that in just a few seconds. So, Jack, let's go over the list of what Brian Wright has done. So, we'll start with the draft. So, obviously, drafted Castle. That was easy. Traded away Dillingham. Got himself some picks. All right, good stuff. All right. So, then you move on. You added Chris Paul. You added Harrison Barnes in a 3-way deal with the Bulls and the Kings. You let go of a lot of players. Obviously, they can come back. But as of now, bye-bye Mamu, bye-bye Osman, bye Barlow, David Duke Jr. I mean, they've just been letting people go. But as the roster stands right now, is he making the right moves? Are they the moves necessary to get this team at least to some sort of competitive level ahead of next season?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've definitely made moves to make ourselves competitive. I think the additions of CP3 and Harrison Barnes, I think are 2 perfect bets for this young team. I mean, we've got
Mm-hmm.
the point guard, obviously, could rave about what he could bring to the team all day. He's as good a vet as you could probably bring in the entire league to a young team. He's going to implement so much wisdom, and just everything he's going to bring off the court is going to be tremendous to this team. And then you add Harrison Barnes, who's been one of the most steady players in the league throughout his career.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically,
Mm-hmm.
15 to 20 points a game
Oh,
his
yeah.
entire career. He shoots 39% from 3. He's a big body, so 3 or 4, plays good defense. I think the moves that we've made definitely lend us to being a much better team. And on top of the exponential jump that we imagine Wemby's going to take, I think
Yeah.
that starting 5 with, Keldon, Trey, and Zach coming off the bench could be pretty formidable. I mean, I see a lot more
Mm-hmm.
wins coming San Antonio's way if we really are trying to, go out and get this.
Right.
I'm still, on the fence between, is this going to be, are we just getting pieces to seem like we're trying to win more? Or are we really trying to, go out and get a bunch more dubs? It's, too early to tell. Does Chris Paul last the whole season?
Right.
Sometimes I think he does, sometimes I think he won't. So yeah, I mean, we've made moves that if we're trying to, we will be significantly more of a winning team next year. But we've also put the pieces in place to where we could trade both those guys at the deadline,
Hmm.
get more assets for them, and tank down the rest of the season. So it's too, like you said, it's too early to tell. But I really do love what Brian Wright has done this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, you see that video of Cooper Flag going against Team USA. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Spurs, if you all decide to pull the plug, I totally understand why get those
Yeah.
chances up to get flagged. But nevertheless, I was circling back Barnes. One thing I like about him, durable. He's kind of an Iron Man. Nearly plays complete. I mean, in today's NBA, that's a rarity. A player that plays 70 or more games.
Hmm.
He does that. And what I also like to, he spreads the floor. He's a reliable 3-point shooter, good mid-range shot. He'll help Wemby in that department. CP3, you nailed it on the head. Now the Spurs have a coach on the court. They have that on there. They didn't have that in the last few years. No knock on Trey, but he was still young. Blake Wesley, we'll get to him. He was just a rookie. There hasn't been that mode of a floor general since Tony Parker, maybe Avery Johnson.
Hmm.
That kind of ilk that's going to get in your face, and we know CP3 will get in his teammates' face if they're not doing right on the court. So I like about that is that I think it's going to be infectious. And sometimes I think this team needs a little bit of a dog in them, and CP3 has
Oh
that
yeah.
in him. They need a little more dog, and he's going to give that to you. Barnes is a very quiet guy. He goes in, lunch pail, does his work, and at the end, Barnes is one of those guys. At the end of the night, you look at the stat sheet, like, well, what? 20 and 10? What? Like, how did that happen?
Yep.
But he does that. So I like the moves that Brian Wright has done. Uh, do you think if they are more competitive next season, and we kind of hinted at the draft with Flag, does that hurt the Spurs draft pick? Atlanta may be a 500 team or better. We don't know. So
Hmm.
if that pushes them out of the top 10, because Atlanta picks land wherever they land, just say they land out of top 10, and the Spurs hurt their own pick. Maybe 2025 draft isn't the goal now. Maybe the goal now is winning.
Yeah, it like I said, I think I've been really on the fence between my decision on what I really think the Spurs are going to do, because like you said, I think Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes are perfect vets for this young team. I mean, Harrison Barnes, like you said, he's a lunch pail guy. He's an NBA champion. He's got tons of wisdom to instill in these young guys too. So I mean, but looking at both of these vets, they're both guys that I would like to keep around for, as longer than a season, more
Hmm.
of a significant amount of time, because I think they can be, key additions to this young core. So if we're really trying to go out and win, I mean, you've got to imagine Wimby's jump gets us, you know, 10
Hmm.
more wins on his own. And
Sure.
I would imagine Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, them two, probably add 10
Hmm.
more wins between the two of them. So
Hmm.
we could, if we're really gunning for it, we could be a 40 plus win team and, be biting at the ankles of the play in. So I do
Hmm.
think that if we're really trying to win now, we have made good moves to do so while still keeping our assets in place so we can make another big move next
Hmm.
offseason. And I really do kind of lean that that's towards the way we're going. I mean, we've got the 3 picks next year. If anything, we can package all three to
Hmm.
another lottery team and, move up and get another significant young
Hmm.
rookie that isn't Cooper Flag, because I would say I was looking at a mock draft yesterday. There's probably 5 or 6 guys that if they were in this past year's draft, they would have easily been in the top 10, and some
Hmm.
of them would have been number one. So there's probably 4 guys that probably would have been the number one pick in next year's draft and this upcoming draft. So yeah, it's extremely deep. It's not Cooper Flag or bust. There are elite guards next year, probably 4 or 5 guards that could turn into franchise point guards. There's another elite scoring wing in Ace Bailey, who no one's really talking about. But when you see him at Rutgers, he could really go off. And there might be some people that think maybe we take Ace Bailey over Cooper Flagg. He's that good, 6'10", electric scorer. So yeah, it's not Cooper Flagg or bust. So I don't think we're necessarily going to be hurting ourselves with lessening our pick. I think the Hawks are going to be worse than they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, we're going to get a good pick with their pick. And if we, match that up with the Bulls pick or our pick, whichever one is better, I think we could, jump a few spots and nab one of those really good guys, one of those good guards or Ace Bailey or someone. So no, I don't think we're doing our team a disservice by going out and trying to be competitive and trying to win a bunch of games. I think that's where I want to say the Spurs are at right now with the moves that we've made, and I think we can definitely go out there and compete and win 40 plus games. So I don't think lessening our pick is a disservice to the team. I think we may have just jumped onto a new path, and that's let's start winning with Wemby. Let's get him acclimated into the league, and let's really start winning and become, take that next step in our franchise.
If player development was the focus last season, then maybe this season is team winning development.
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys fell flat in your face last year, guys. 22 wins, getting trounced left and right, 10 plus game losing skid. All right, y'all learn how to play individually. Now let's learn to play as a team. And what better way to do that than Brian Wright bringing Barnes and CP3 to help on the court? Pop can only do so much. He can only yell from the court sidelines. He can only yell in practice and draw up plays, but he can't be on the court. And that's where the Spurs have struggled, is a player on the court. We saw many times last season where games were close and Spurs would just do stupid young mistakes, turn the ball over multiple times, not defend, and that's where I think a guy like Barnes and CP3 would come in those tight games. I kind of see this team being like kind of Houston was last season, really just pushing to the very end, to make the play-in playoffs. Houston was right there. I think they were like a couple of games away on the win column to making the play-in tournament. I can see the Spurs like that. I think as of now, they are a play-in worthy team, but even then, Jack, on paper, they look like a play-in team, but the moves that Wright has made, do you think it bumps them up? I mean, almost 20 plus wins? I mean, to get into the play-in in the West, you need about 42, 43. Yeah, 22. They're going to need like 20 more wins. Can they do it?
Yeah, I certainly think they can. I mean,
Okay.
in the beginning of the season, we saw, how lost or getting used to the NBA Wemby was. So that right there, we skipped that period. That could be, another 5 wins in the early part of the season that we didn't get last year, that Wemby will just give us a loan because he's going to be so dominant. And I think, as the season goes on, Wemby's just going to get better and better. So he's going to account for, maybe 5 more wins just by himself. And I truly think that Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul, what they're going to bring to the team in terms of leadership, and then what they're going to bring on the court as well, I think that could account for, up to 10, maybe more wins in itself. And just, what Chris Paul and Wemby could become next year is, a pick and roll duo, I think is going to be frightening for teams. So, yeah, I think the addition of CP3 and Barnes with the jump that we expect Wemby to make, that we're hoping Jeremy and Devin make, and, what is Castle? If Castle comes in and he's the rookie of the year and he has a fantastic rookie season, I mean, with Castle, Keldon, Trey, and Zach off the bench, and if we can bring in back Chetty and have him run with that group as well, I mean, that's a really, really solid, 10 that the Spurs have. So, yeah, I definitely think we could win 20 more games last year. I mean, how many games did the Spurs give away last year in the fourth quarter? I mean, I can't even tell
Well,
you how
many
many that
games,
was.
yeah.
There were so many games, yeah, that we had the lead in the fourth quarter and would give it away. So I think just tightening those bolts, and with the addition of what we've brought in our vets, I do really think we could win, 20 plus more games this year, because it's just,
Yeah.
it's basketball math. You bring in the point guard, you bring in an NBA champion, and then you have the best, prospect of all time making a second-year jump. It's just going to account for more wins, and I really do think it could be that many.
Yeah, Brian Wright has put this team in a position to win a lot. Well, look, the bar is set low, 22 wins, but nevertheless, to actually win, upwards of 35 or more heading into the new season. I'm interested in seeing like how the new players, Barnes and CP3, adjust to Wemby. I think for CP3, it'd be pretty much seamlessly, considering
I think
he's
it'll
never.
be seamless for both.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in the last show. I'm not too sure, but if I didn't, help me out here. When was the last time Chris Paul had a big like Wemby on the court on the same team? I mean, DeAndre Jordan is one that pops, but not.
Yeah,
To,
I mean,
I mean, I don't
as far as the
remember.
lob threat, only
Yeah,
DeAndre Jordan, young
yeah,
Tyson Chandler on
yeah.
New Orleans.
New
But
Orleans, yeah. I'm trying to think.
Emeka Okafor when he was really good
Yeah.
on New Orleans. But yeah, I mean, he's never had a pop threat, a pick and pop threat like Wemby.
Yeah.
He's really only had, the pick and roll and the lob off the pick and roll, that type of threat as a big man. But
Mm-hmm.
Wemby adds so much more dynamic to that pick and roll. It's going to be horrifying for the league to try and guard.
Yeah. Brian Wright definitely has done right by the Spurs with the moves he's made. Were there some head scratchers? Maybe. Dillingham was one, but ended up being working right for the Spurs to accommodate the new players, to make cap space and roster space, whatnot. I think it would have made a bigger logjam at the point guard spot. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And not only that, preserving the Spurs war chest of draft picks, he hasn't given up, I don't think, any, right?
We haven't given, we got Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul without giving up a pick and receiving an unprotected pick swap.
Yep.
So yeah,
from
Brian
Minnesota,
Wright
got one. Yeah.
is fleecing the league. He's I read this article the other day. I can't remember who wrote it, but it was about how Brian Wright, there's a few GMs in the league that nobody should trade with because they're a step above the game of everybody else. They're playing the game steps ahead of every other GM. And Brian Wright was named as one of those GMs that if you're out there trading and your main, the main phone call you're taking is the Spurs, it was saying like, as that GM, you need to step back and take a breath because that team, the Spurs are out to fleece you. They're betting on your team falling apart a few years down the road and taking what could be your most valuable pick and hopefully turning that into another great player. And that's exactly what I think Brian Wright is doing. He's absolutely robbing the rest of the league blind. I mean, to get Harrison Barnes and an unprotected pick swap for nothing is crazy. It's crazy that he was able to pull that off.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brian Wright has had an incredible offseason thus far. He has bolstered his stock, in my opinion. I have the utmost trust in what he's building as the Spurs right now, and I'm just really excited to see it continue to grow.
Yeah. For me, say what you will about the battles on the court ahead of next season. Imagine this battle off the court: Brian Wright versus Danny Ainge with Lauri Markkanen as a prize. That would be a fun phone call to listen into.
Oh man, I want him so bad. If we are able to pull in Lowry, oh man, then we're in the playoffs. We're not looking at the play-in anymore. I think we are a playoff team.
I know. I mean, you would have to probably part with, man, maybe Vassell. I mean, that's gonna sting. I just think
I'll give them Keldon and Zach first. See if they'll take that. But
you say Keldon, Zach in a first.
I mean, that's not a bad deal. I would take that. Yeah. I would give that up. But I also would try and squeeze Brandon Ingram out of New Orleans. I think they're in a desperate rebuild. They don't have any centers, so I think Zach Collins and Malachi Branham or maybe Blake Wesley. You add someone in there with a few picks. I think you could go get you some Brandon Ingram too, which is another guy that I think immediately puts us in the playoffs. So yeah, but I'm definitely on the phone with New Orleans and Utah every single day, annoying the hell out of them until they make a deal.
All right, we'll see what the Spurs and Brian Wright do. But as of now, Wright is doing right by the Spurs, putting them in a position to be competitive, preserving their future with all the picks that are still in the war chest, and The offseason just began. We'll just see what he has in store next if the Spurs make any more moves at all. He is Jack Thompson. Follow him on X at Jack_Thompson. When we get back, we're going to put Blake Wesley in focus. Yeah, there you go. See, not only is it 3 goggles, it's focus goggles. We're going to be asking, is there a logjam now at the point guard spot? And is Wesley the odd man out? We're going to be talking about that coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the San Antonio Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
We're back with Jack Thompson. Follow him on X at Jack_Thompson33. He has given me his blessing that New Balance is okay to wear. It's not
Absolutely
considered
okay.
uncool dad shoes anymore. Just wondering because...
Yeah. Give me 1 sec. Let me grab the New Balance I got and show you
All right, I gotta see this.
How much they are not dad shoes.
Yeah, all right. See, everybody, I have a pair of, well, more than a pair of New Balance shoes. And every time I put them on, I feel like, is this a dad move? And to see what Jack has. All right, Jack's going to bless us with some. Okay, you know what? Yeah, those are sick.
Not dad shoes.
That is not a dad shoe at all.
Absolutely.
What colorway is that?
This is like so this is a silhouette for New Balance that a designer named Salah Bimbri, he does a lot of collabs with New Balance. He did these. The silhouette on these is this is the 574. So these are normally made to be like trekking shoes, like through the woods. But obviously, like these are
you wear them
not,
whenever. Yeah.
Yeah, these are not trekking shoes. But one of the coolest parts about these is this right here.
What is that?
What? It's a whistle.
That is so cool, man.
That's a whistle.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So these are the new come ups. I'm thrilled with them. One of my favorite.
Oh yeah, those are sick. Right, those are sick. All right. You know what? Because the 550s are a throwback to the old school.
Yeah.
And so I look at them. I like the way they look, very old schooly 80s vibe. And I put them on. I'm like, okay, I don't have kids, but am I a dad now? I just, well, but we're not, obviously. After Jack showing us that shoe, I mean, yeah, exactly. New Balance is not that bad to put on your feet. Hey, you mentioned him in the first segment, or middle segment, I should say, Blake Wesley. Let's look at the point guard situation now. So you got Castle, you got Trey Jones, you got CP3. Now you got, on the roster too, Blake Wesley. There seems to be a logjam there. Okay? Is Blake Wesley the odd man out? Do you think they would even dare send him to Austin, considering how he played pretty decently last season? Or he's more trade fodder now?
Yeah, I think he's definitely the odd man out in the guard group. I mean, I really don't want to see him get any minutes at point guard. I want all those point guard minutes to go to Castle and more. So yeah, Blake Wesley, odd man out. Malachi Branham is, not far behind him there. So yeah, I think those two definitely are not long for the Spurs unless, one of them makes a significant jump and you just cannot take them off the team. But yeah, Blake Wesley, among the guys who are on the current roster, is absolutely the odd man out. It's just, I like Blake. He made a jump last year. He's a really good defender. He's a electric in the open court with his speed. But yeah, his lack of shooting ability is going to bury him on this bench. And it's sad to say, but yeah, he's absolutely the odd man out. And I don't think long for the Spurs, unfortunately.
Yeah, I wonder if he would be okay going to the Austin Spurs. I mean, he's been doing that since pretty much he came to the league. Will that be a way for the Spurs to preserve him and keep him on the roster? I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure, he'll take it, rather than have a job than not have a job. There's that. But yeah, I think he is now the odd man out. You're looking at Castle, at least as of this recording, one game at the Summer League, not bad. I get it. Summer League, it's not
he looked good,
NBA camera, but he looked good. He looked decent.
One thing that I pulled from that game is Castle, whenever he had the ball, the game changed to his pace.
Yes,
he was never sped up.
Yeah,
he dictated everything on the court. And yeah, I thought he looked tremendous in that first game. Hey, and that jumper not as broke as everyone said it was.
Yeah. He even said it too the day ahead of the NBA draft. He said that his shot is not broken because if anything, it just needs fine tuning. That's it.
Hmm.
But it doesn't have to be reconstructed. But no, circling back to Wesley. Yeah, guy plays with tremendous speed.
Hmm. Good
Kind of
defender,
good,
pesky
solid,
on-ball
good.
defender.
Yeah, pesky. Ability to finish at the rim, get to the paint, all that good stuff. But when now the logjam, there seems to be. I mean, obviously, look. CP3, he's, forget about it, Wesley. Don't even try, to compete with Jimenez. He's going to get it. So there's that. Trey Jones, steady hand. I mean, think about that. Trey Jones backing up CP3. It's
That's
not
nice.
bad.
That's
That's
very
nice.
little turnovers coming from the
Yes.
point guard spot.
And you got Castle, who's on the rise and looking to take over the reins. And once he gets some seasoning in, yeah, it looks like Wesley could be seeing a different uniform in his near future or buried on the bench, which is sad because, a guy, with late first round pick out of Notre Dame, looked, just, was a raw product, finally starting to turn the page on his career, looked good last season. And now this, if you're in his shoes right now, you're like, dang, like what's up? I think the Spurs should do right, and maybe if there is a trade, and if it is to a team where they can use him and he can play more minutes, I mean, go for it. But I think his future in San Antonio is murky right now. As mentioned, the offseason just began. You still got to the trade deadline of next season, so anything can happen. But yeah, don't be surprised, if Wesley's gone, right, Jack?
Yeah, I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked at all. I mean, amongst the players that we let go, like Chetty, Barlow, Mamu,
Yeah.
I quite frankly would have kept a few of those guys that are over some that are remaining on the roster, and one of those happens to be Blake Wesley. So yeah, I mean, I feel if there's a deal coming in the near future, Blake Wesley will most likely be tacked onto that deal so that, we can do right by him and he can go get some impactful minutes on another team, because there's just not going to be enough for him to go around here.
He's a big Lego fan. I found that out about him. He loves Legos.
Dude, every NBA player is starting to love Legos. That's like the new niche among NBA players.
So yeah, you're not cool unless you're making Legos.
Hey, Legos are cool. I'd rather you be making Legos than going around
partying,
doing stupid stuff like
or getting into
guys.
fights like Zubac and Sarek got into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see that video? Yeah, Sarek got thrown to the
saw it.
floor. Yeah, Sarek got thrown to the floor. Zubac got pulled away. It was a melee. But anyway, we'll see what happens with Blake Wesley. But we're just throwing it out there, just something for y'all to keep an eye on. It looks like Wesley could be the odd man out. He'd be a great insurance policy if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
Chris Paul, usually has a history of getting hurt. Great insurance policy, but we'll see what happens with Wesley. Hey, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. What do you think about Brian Wright and the moves he's made? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Jack and I are saying thumbs up so far. What do you think? And Wesley, do you think his time in San Antonio is coming to an end? Let us know. You can let Jack know on X at Jack_Thompson. Show him your New Balance if you have any. Send him a picture so he can give you a thumbs up. Show me. If he has to show me your shoes, show Jack your kicks. That's what you got to do. Follow him on X at Jack_Thompson33. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow talking all things Spurs. Kind of a reaction from the Spurs introducing CP3 and Harrison Barnes to the media that happened yesterday. And so much more coming up here on Locked On Spurs. And subscribe to Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel only on YouTube, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. He is Jack Thompson. I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked